Alright, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Sketching, where we have about 400 of these toys in these little eggs or canisters, and we pull one out every morning and we sketch it. It's a random object that we pull from the Random Object Randomogrifier. Today we have a polar bear. This polar bear image is in the community post at YouTube. So if you're live with us this morning, there should be a pinned link in the discussion. And if you're watching the recording, there's a link in the description below that shows where you can find the reference image if you would like to sketch along. And if you do sketch along, I would appreciate you sending a picture of it to blade@artisticbiker.com with the subject line easel. I will use it as a means to encourage others to try, because that's the whole purpose of all of this, is to get people to incorporate more creativity in their lives. So that said, good morning. My folks are already in the chat. My mom and dad are already in the chat. They started chatting about 30 minutes ago. Which is cool. I'm already filling in details. I shouldn't be filling in details yet. I should be working on the composition. If you don't do the composition first, what you end up is what just happened right there, where that paw is too far away from the head. So let me go back and focus on the composition first. Make sure I've got everything where it's supposed to be. You solve that problem by moving faster. That stops you. That takes you where you don't have time to focus on the details. And once you get the composition down, then you can go back and say, okay, that doesn't really go there like that. Good afternoon, Claudia. Claudia's in the chat. She's in the Netherlands. That music got real loud just then, didn't it? I mean, wow. Give me just a second and I will adjust that. That just really got loud just then. I mean, I love it, but shouldn't be overpowering the discussion. Alright. Sorry. Wife's sending me text messages. She's more important than all y'all. She wants to send the dogs down to me, but I can't do that because I'm streaming live. Alright, I think now we know we've got the composition. Alright, now that I've got the composition, now I can go back and do the polar bear. Now I can't see the chat. Why can't I see the chat? Or the camera that I'm working on. And why is the image in the stream still the Mount Rushmore. That's crazy talk. Okay, that should fix it. Alright, back to this morning's regularly scheduled program. Drawing this polar bear reminds me of one of the best pranks I've ever pulled in my life. I'm proud of the prank. I probably shouldn't be. There's this joke. You tell this joke, and the joke is, and this is the dumbest thing you've ever heard, the joke is, there's these two polar bears and they're in love. And then they're on an iceberg. It's a male polar bear, a female polar bear, because, you know, they're in love. Polar bears don't really understand any other way. But suddenly, iceberg splits. And the male polar bear is on one side, and the female polar bear is on the other side. And they're drifting away. And the male polar bear knows he's got to do something or he's never going to see his female polar bear again. And he starts to panic, and at the last minute he jumps in the ice cold water and he yells, "Radio!" Now, there's nothing funny about that. That in and of itself is not funny by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's just not. You tell it like it's supposed to be the funniest joke you've ever heard. And what you do is you get all of your friends around you to also act like it is the funniest joke they've ever heard. And then you pick a mark. You pick somebody in the crowd, like in this one particular instance I'm telling you about, my friend Dooley. Friend. Remember, we're friends. And so I gather, this 100 years ago, I'm working at Long John Silver's. 100 years ago. And for those not familiar, Long John Silver's is a fast food restaurant here in the States that used to be pretty popular, and they sold fried seafood like Captain D's. They sold fried seafood, and in a small town like where we lived, that was the only access to seafood type stuff. And so especially during Lent, it was very popular. All that aside, radio, shout radio, and your mark has no idea what's going on, you know, because it's dumb. But all of your comrades, you know, in the joke are in on it, so they're laughing like it's the funniest thing they've ever heard. Radio, that's so good. And of course your mark doesn't get it, and he thinks, well, this is dumb, I don't understand. And you can pretend to explain it to him, like, you know, radio, get it? He doesn't get it. And his confusion just makes everybody laugh that much harder. Okay, so then you let him off the hook and you explain to him that he's actually the mark, and that the joke is that it was a practical joke and you were playing it on him. And he's like, oh, that's so mean, I can't believe y'all do it to me. Let's get Dwayne. And so he decides he's going to participate, and he wants to do the joke to Dwayne. Well, I went around, he goes around to everybody and does the same thing I did. He tells everybody, laugh like it's the funniest joke you've ever heard in your life. And I go around behind him and said, don't laugh at all. Pretend like you've never heard anything quite as stupid. And he gets everybody set up. Everybody's pretending like they're going to play along. And he gets the joke, and he tells the joke to Dwayne in front of the crowd. And he says, the two polar bears, and they're in love. And the male polar bear jumps in the water and he shouts, radio! And he's waiting for all of us to start cracking up. And he pretends to crack up. And nobody else is cracking up. And we're all looking at him like, what? Brian, that's Dooley, that's just dumb. Why would he shout radio in the water? And just left him hanging with it. And I mean, it's mean, it's cruel. I probably shouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did, but I mean, it was really, at the time, it was really funny to me. And I still laugh about it, because I mean, we went all out. We had people in the dining room playing along, saying, yeah, it's hilarious, that's a great joke. I'm so mean. I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad at all. I should feel bad. I don't feel bad at all. But this polar bear reminded me of that moment in my life when I picked on my poor dear friend Brian Dooley. Claudia's laughing. It's just mean, and I don't feel bad. Anyway, something weird going on here behind this ear with the shading. I don't really understand what's going on behind this ear with the shading. I'm going to have to study that harder. This is one of those fun exercises where you have to figure out how to shade an egg and still leave it white, right? Because it's a polar bear. Haha, radio! Anyway, because it's a polar bear. And so you have to figure out how to shade it and yet still make it look white. Oh yeah. My dad's in the chat room telling stories on me. My best friend Kenny and I were in home economics together, and we committed to building a set of shelves in home economics for a grade, and the shelves were already built. We didn't build any shelves. They were already built, but we still turned it in for a grade. Hang on, I gotta fix this. This polar bear is way off and it's driving me nuts. Okay, so there's that. And I've got the same problem over here. All this stuff could have been fixed wicked early in the morning, but no. I was too busy sitting around drinking coffee. 788, no, 875. There we go. These are things I should have been fixing a long time ago. These are things I should have had worked out before we started. Okay, anyway, back to the sketch. Sorry for the distraction. So yeah, how do you shade an egg? How do you shade an egg and make it still look white? Well, that's where we are with this polar bear, right? So anyway, we told the teacher, we took pictures of the shelves while they were being built, and in every picture we had beer and cigarettes. We were young. But we didn't build the shelves. My dad built those shelves years and years before that. I finally confessed that to the teacher years later, after the statute of limitations, after she could no longer take my diploma away from me. But that doesn't have anything to do with polar bears. The first joke had to do with polar bears. I think the Spanish word for that is travieso. Naughty. I think it's travieso. Travieso. You look back at all the pranks I pulled as a wee child. When I squint at the bear, at the polar bear, this back leg back here is just a little darker than the actual shadow. The whole bear over here is darker than the shadow. Until the shadow gets to that paw. And then at the paw it becomes a contact shadow. Which rapidly fans back out into a cast shadow. Which right here you can see there's a little reflect light where the light is bouncing back up on the bear, back down onto the paper, so there's a little reflected light in the shadow. Just like that is there, this side of the bear is not black. Nah, I did a polar bear. But you know what? I did. Mom, you're right. I've never done it. I don't think I've ever done a polar bear on camera. She's saying she doesn't remember me ever doing a polar bear before. I've never done one on camera. So you're right on that. But I've had a lot of these tubes, and I've been doing this for a very long time. So there are a handful of these that I've done that did not get broadcast. Alright. So this edge really should be more defined. This polar bear here is darker than the shadow. This polar bear here is darker than the shadow. But again, remember, it's white, so you can't go too terribly dark. We've lost this ear entirely because it's got too many marks in it. And this side of the head needs more highlights. But I think we're back to that issue we had the other day with the police car. When we did the police car, remember the issue was the car itself was lighter than the paper. Claudia says she remembers the raccoon. Do you actually remember the raccoon, or are you talking about the raccoon with the hat? As I did sketch a raccoon. Still, I did not sketch a raccoon on camera. But I have noticed several of these are in my videos on YouTube that I have done them before 3-4 years ago. And I have duplicates of some of the toys because I'll buy a Zeus set, and the Zeus set will have a polar bear, a black bear, brown bear, an elephant, and then I'll buy an African safari set, and the African safari set will have an elephant, a lion, and a tiger. And then I'll buy an Arctic set, and the Arctic set will have a polar bear and a walrus. And then I'll buy a Inuit set, and the Inuit set will have a polar bear and a walrus. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to darken the paper. Instead of, usually at this point we darken the object, because the object is usually not white. But in this instance, if I squint, that bear is several layers, values higher than the paper. So I'm just gonna tone the paper a little bit. To help give the impression that the bear is white. Make the bear the whitest thing on the page. Look how that made that bear pop out. I have family. I can start sketching families. And she's talking about I have families of toys. Yeah, and the problem, what I want to avoid, Claudia, is that if I have to make a decision what to draw, that's what prompted this whole thing with the Random Object Randomogrifier. If I have to make a decision what to draw every morning, I will spend all morning long saying, I don't want to draw that, I've already drawn that, I don't want to draw that, I don't want to draw that, I don't want to draw that, and then my time will run out and I will have not drawn anything. And so that's what prompted me. Initially I just put the toys in a plastic bag, or in a canvas bag, and then I would reach into the canvas bag and I would pull a toy out. But I could feel the toy and I could kind of tell what it was. Like I knew it was a rocket ship or a car or an animal of some sort, and that made it where I could make a conscious decision not to grab that toy, even if I was not actually making a conscious decision not to do it. I don't know if that made sense. I would subconsciously not choose that toy. And so that's where we came up with the idea of the Random Object Randomogrifier. The music got loud again. That's where we came up with the idea of the Random Object Randomogrifier, so that we could. Something horrible has happened to the music. I'm gonna stop it for now. It's not paying attention to what I'm telling it to do anyway. But that was why we went to the Random Object Randomogrifier to begin with, was because how often do you think I can say Random Object Randomogrifier in one stream? But again, the point was that I couldn't decide not to draw something because I wouldn't know what it was. I just had to go with whatever the fates gave me that morning. And it works out well. It's not a machine, it's a box. Let me hang on just a minute. Let me finish this. She asked a very valid question. She said, "Do I have a machine?" And it's kind of a machine. It will eventually, when I completely finish it out, it will be a machine where I can just pull the lever and a ball will fall. I'm not there. I'm not quite there yet. But let me just add some highlights to this, and then I will show you. But I think the sketch is done. So we can do that real quick. Hang on just a second though. There's a highlight running down. He's got a highlight running down his cheek here. It's not really standing out very well. And those little highlights like that are what make the difference between a polar bear and a dog. Knowing where that cheek is how you can tell the difference between a weasel and a ferret. Or I'm sorry, a weasel and a cat. Alright, I think I'm calling it. So yeah, I'm going to call it. What is today? Today is the 15th. It's tax day. I think it's my parents' anniversary. Oh wait, no. Something bad happened to my dad on the 15th. My parents' anniversary was the 8th. I think it was the 8th. It's either the 8th or the 9th. I get that confused every year. But it's been a long-standing joke with my dad that April 15th is the wedding day because he just remembers something bad happened to him that day. Which is absolutely a joke because getting married to my mom was probably the best thing that ever happened to him. Hang on, let me get a picture of the random modifier and you'll see what it looks like. I'll show you. Dun, dun, dun. Alright, so first up, let's take a look at that. Stop this, go here, and figure out if there's anywhere at all I can put that in focus that you can see it, and it turns out the answer is no. So there's the bear. Maybe this camera. Let's try this camera. Maybe this camera will focus. Nope. No luck. I'll post it on the community page. You can see it. You can see it on the community page. But the randomogrifier, no, not morning overhead, overhead close up. The randomogrifier is a box full of these canisters and Easter eggs. Every one of those canisters and Easter eggs has a toy in it, and the toy is dispersed right there, and that's where every morning I grab one of the toys in an Easter egg like this. And so when I'm done drawing, the toy goes back into the Easter egg. I ended up having to put tape on it because they don't stay shut when I drop them into the randomogrifier, random object randomogrifier. But you know what? I closed that up, and I haven't taken the thumbnail picture yet. I think I can get that bear back where it was. That's pretty close. That didn't even take much effort. Alright, good. It is a homemade machine, yes. It was an old bookshelf that had some water damage and was warped. And so I took all the shelves out of it, and I added the plexiglass to the front, and I added the somehow my chair is moved. I added the plexiglass and the pipe for the ball to fall out. Okay, guys, let's call it a day. It looks as though the stream has caught up to us, so yeah, I'm gonna let it go. We have to do some of this stuff at the end here so that the stream will catch up with us, so I don't end up cutting it off midstream. But thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. We'll be here again tomorrow morning, 5:30. Peace out. And then we freeze.